Hello, my name is Chris and I'm a U-Haul hitch professional. Installing a stealth hitch on your Tesla Model Y can lead to some amazing adventures, such as biking, camping, or road trips to your favorite destination. You can even tow a U-Haul trailer just about anywhere in North America. Now let's take a look at how we completed this install. You will need the following tools and supplies to complete this installation. Let's begin this installation by lifting up on our tailgate and removing our floorboard. We can now remove our rear threshold by gently lifting up. You can now remove your floorboard liners. There is one on either side of the vehicle. They also just gently pop out. We can now remove 4 push rivets from our cargo box liner. There is one on each side of the box and 2 are at the rear near the tailgate latch. You can now remove the cargo box liner. You can now remove these cargo inserts by gently pulling up. You can now remove 1 more push pin rivet for each side, holding back the trim. Gently peel the trim away from the vehicle. There will be a tab affixing it to this trim here. Hold the trim back and pull away the carpet. There's another one here. You can now remove 2 8mm fasteners from behind the taillight. You can now remove the taillight electrical connector using a flathead screwdriver. You can now remove your passenger side electrical connector. It will remove the same as the driver. However, the tab is facing inward and you cannot see it. Now remove the trunk stop from the taillight. Pry up using a trim panel tool. You can now gently pull the tail light rearward. If you need to, you can use a trim panel tool to pry these 2 posts away from the body here and here. Now remove the 10mm fasteners hidden below the tail light. There is one on either side. You can now remove 13 fasteners from the underbody panel. There will be 7 that are a 10mm and 6 that are push pin fasteners. We can now gently pry away our wheel trim using a trim panel tool. You may find when you pull the wheel trim away from the vehicle that some of the retaining clips stay in the body. Go ahead and use your trim panel tool to pop these out and replace them back into the wheel trim. You can now remove the 8mm fastener that is hidden under the wheel trim. Now repeat these steps for the other side. We can now go ahead and use some blue masking tape to protect various body lines in the vehicle to prevent scratches from our trims. We are now ready to remove the vehicle's fascia. You may want to grab yourself a second set of hands to hold the bumper as there's an electrical connection in here we will have to remove. Beginning at the wheel wells, gently pull the fascia away from the vehicle. You may need to use your trim panel tool or a flathead screwdriver to depress the tabs to get the fascia to come away from the vehicle. In the tail light cavity, we'll need to lift the fascia over the 3 tabs. Our vehicle was not actually connected in the bumper. If yours is, you will be able to disconnect the bumper sensor and remove the bumper. We can now remove 4 fasteners holding the bumper sensor in place. You can remove these with a 10mm socket. Use a trim panel tool to pop this clip away from the vehicle. There is one on the other side as well. Pop this electrical connection away from the bracket. We can now set this bracket off to the side until we reinstall it later. We are now ready to remove the vehicle's bumper beam. Start with 3 fasteners on either side, holding the black bumper bracket to the vehicle. Remove these using a 15mm socket and an extension. Save these nuts for reinstallation later. With the bumper beam on the ground, we can now remove 6 fasteners holding the bumper beam to the brackets. There will be 3 on either side. And additionally, you will flip the bumper over to remove 1 13mm fastener from the passenger side bracket. Save this for reinstallation later. You can now remove the brackets from the bumper beam. They will not be reinstalled. You can now secure 7 nylon washers to the aluminum bumper beam. Use a bit of painter's tape to hold them in place. You can now install the aluminum bumper beam onto the stealth hitch using the new provided M10 hardware and flat washers, and apply the flange nut. It may be helpful to do 1 fastener on either side to keep the bumper beam straight before you move forward. This flange nut may be hard to reach with your fingers. Use your 15mm socket and your extension to hand tighten. You can now reinstall your previously removed 13mm fastener and torque it to the manufacturer specs that we will link in the description below. We're now ready to torque the new M10 bolts in the bumper beam. Use your previous 15mm socket, but you will also need a 17mm wrench to hold the bolt from the back. You can now place a nylon washer on the 6 studs you will hang the hitch on. 3 on either side. You can now place the stealth hitch and the factory bumper beam back on the Tesla. Now replace your previously removed flange nuts. You can now tighten and torque the hardware to the manufacturer's specifications. You can now reinstall your sensor bracket by pushing in the 2 clips and reinstalling the 4 previously removed fasteners. Now replace the electrical connector back into the sensor bracket. Before returning the fascia to the vehicle, you can go ahead and remove the trim door by depressing the tabs with a flathead screwdriver. We can now return the fascia to the vehicle. Make sure your tail light cavities are lined up. You may have to pull the bumper over the support structure. Everything's lined up. Let's push it in. Now at the bottom of the vehicle, because we didn't remove our underbody panel, we need to line everything up properly. So these big tabs from the underbody are going to go behind the bumper fascia, and there's a tab on the bumper fascia that will lock into it. Secure these all the way around before returning all the fasteners. You can now return the single fastener behind the wheel trim and replace the wheel trim. You can now reinstall your tail lights. You can now return the side trim by gently depressing the clips. And by reinserting the push rivet. You can now replace the cargo box trim and replace the 4 push rivets. Replace the floor support trim. We're now ready to return our rear threshold. You can now return your 2 floor pieces. We're now ready to install the hardware on the back of our fascia trim knockout. But first, we're going to trim off a few of these tabs. So get something like tin snips and follow the directions to remove the amount of tabs they call out. Center the cover support inside the fascia trim and mark out 4 holes to be drilled. You can use a grease pencil or perhaps even a Sharpie. Now drill these holes out using a 1/4 inch drill bit. Be sure to keep your fingers free. You can now insert 2 button head screws and flange nuts on our 2 outside drilled holes. You can now tighten this hardware using a Phillips head screwdriver and an 11mm socket. We can now install the main body underneath the cover support. Make sure that this flange goes between the plastic underneath our metal support. We can now install the handle and the remaining 2 button head screws. Pass them through the handle and through the trim door, and we will then affix them to the threaded carriage plate. You may need your screwdriver to help you get them through the plastic. Once they are protruding through, we can align the carriage plate. Do not fully tighten these handle screws. We want the main body to be a little loose so we can center this on the vehicle and then tighten them fully. Now insert the main body of the cover into the receiver and align the trim appropriately until it all seats into place. We can now tighten these screws. We can now pull the cover back out and install our safety lanyard. In order to now remove the cover, you must pull up on the handle while pulling out. There is a safety latch designed to make this not come out easily, but you will get it out. You can now wrap the safety lanyard around the cover support. Pass one eye through the other. You can now pass the safety lanyard through your safety chain hook and connect it, the other safety eye, with the carabiner. Now that the hitch is installed, we've pulled the vehicle onto level ground to show you some important measurements. This is a 2-inch hitch receiver. From the pinhole to the end of the bumper is 7 inches. From the ground to the inside of the top of the receiver is 15 inches. These measurements will help you determine the necessary length, rise, or drop of your hitch accessories like a ball mount, bike rack, or cargo carrier. If you have any questions about the products seen in this video, or if you'd like to schedule an installation with your local U-Haul hitch professional, please visit us online at uhaulhitches.com. You can also download the U-Haul app using the link in the description for even more ways to manage your hitch and towing needs.